make progress, the progress that Will has said he aspires to make. How can we think that having not done it once, you're going to do it next time? As a private sector businessman, good use of taxpayers' money, it may well trigger this debate, but I'm sure there are other ways of triggering this debate without necessarily having to spew vast amounts of money on a report that arguably doesn't paint the real picture. So can you reassure me and the committee that we aren't wasting large amounts of money producing a white elephant? When I read the NAO audit report, and I just take one little piece that says, of 407 local authorities that should have submitted audited information into the WGA, 167 or 41% didn't submit data at all. A further 55% or 224 submitted data based on unaudited accounts. Only 16 or 4% of English local authorities submitted adequate audited data. Coming on top of attending the DWP meeting, where I find that the accounts have been qualified for 37 consecutive years, talking about medical malpractice, I ask myself, if you put rubbish into a system, you get rubbish out. So how much does it cost to produce this? And actually, is it actually an exercise that is worth doing until we've resolved all of these issues down at local council level? Because I can't see that this is necessarily, as a private sector businessman, good use of taxpayers' money. It may well trigger this debate, but I'm sure there are other ways of triggering this debate without necessarily having to spew vast amounts of money on a report that arguably doesn't paint the real picture. So can you reassure me and the committee that we aren't wasting large amounts of money producing a white elephant?
Welcome to the committee. Thanks for the question. Let me take that head on. Look, we're the only country that does this, but we think that's good, not bad. It's not a highly expensive thing.
What does it cost? Do we know?
I mean, it costs the time of a small team in the Treasury of not very many people, and it's a good challenge. It really is a good challenge because I'm reducing my budget in the Treasury and I need to cut my cloth accordingly. I'm reducing the size of the Treasury. But I said it earlier and I'll say it again. The exact debate we've had on the quality of local authority finance would not be happening, I don't think, unless we exposed it through this. And to Mr. Betts's point, don't people who live in local authority areas around the country deserve to know that they've got high quality accounts where they can understand the assets and liabilities of the councils and that serve.
That was going to be one of my points.
And don't they? And if they emerge in another thing, that they have the quality of accounts that can help to do that merger. So I think the fact that we're having this side of the debate where we're asking, look at the size of clinical negligence over the next, over the next 50 years, look at the size of nuclear decommissioning. Is there an intergenerational unfairness in pensions? What are we doing about local authority? I think for the costs of a relatively small team in the Treasury, I think is providing you and us, because the Treasury, by the way, you're the committee that pushes for better value for money in public spending. The Treasury is the department that does that on your behalf, so our objectives are entirely aligned. So I think entirely because of that thing, I think the pretty small cost of pulling this together is asking some pretty fundamental questions that are at the base of value for money. And you don't have to save much money off the £125 billion in nuclear decommissioning, the £58 billion provision and £25 billion contingent liability on clinical negligence to make this pay for itself. Moreover, so I think it's a really good challenge, but I hope I'm sort of walking straight to
we don't know the exact cost of it, but also, I mean, when we look at 23-4, where you made some aspirational to Chris's point, some aspirational sort of statements, and it doesn't seem that we've actually made the progress that we hoped to make. I don't necessarily think, and today we've heard more aspirations, so I just question how does this committee know you're going to make progress, the progress that Will has said he aspires to make? How can we think that having not done it once, you're going to do it next time?
Yeah, look, I think it's a really good challenge. And I won't rehearse. We think we are making progress. I think the point I'd be making in defence of the whole of government accounts is what we're saying is we've been on it. Of the 10,000 bodies we put together, we're struggling with the local authority area because the data's not coming through in quality of. I genuinely think you wouldn't even be having that conversation, and I don't think it's been pursued extensively in the select committee for MHCLG without this. So whilst it might be awkward for us to have aspirations and things, the fact that you're pushing that to allow, to Mr. Betts's point, a better service for people in local authorities in understanding their financial management, I think is a good thing. I mean, we could get rid of whole of government accounts, and I wouldn't have to come here every year and answer these difficult questions.
You'll be here for another reason, James.
No, I'll be.
You'll be here for another reason.
I'll see you in lots of different guises. But yeah, you take my point, I hope.
I'm still struggling to see, but again, what it bears out to me is that there is a complete separation between the private sector and the public sector. There's no way that the private sector, if I ran a public company or a private company with an audit report like this, I would end up in prison probably. So
the equivalent would be trying to amalgamate the entirety of the private sector into one set of accounts.
Yes, but you.
So this would be saying.
If you're individual companies.
Yeah, but I'm saying this is amalgamating all.
I know what it is, but if you put rubbish in at the bottom, you get rubbish out at the top. It's a bit like these local councils. It's a very good question.
Sure, but if
you amalgamate all the local councils are all a mess, you just get one big mess.
Well, wait a minute. Of the 10,000 bodies, local authorities are the ones missing data, about 200. But I'm sure, no one had ever tried to do it. But I'm sure if we tried to amalgamate the entirety of the private sector into one account, which would be the equivalent, there would be